So thanks for inviting me to come and talk to you today about shaping our future. What I'd like to do is share the Shaping Our Future plan to get your feedback and views on that. So if I can just refresh where we've come from and the background to Shaping Our Future first. So it was launched in July 2020 at the height of COVID, really, when we were all living with COVID. And probably then we thought COVID would come to an end and we'd go back to our normal way of life. I think we're all clear now that we're going to be living with COVID for some time. So it's a fairly uncertain climate out there. Also, with COVID, it also has some impact on the economy. And also from the economy perspective, we just came out of Brexit as well, obviously. So what I'm really trying to explain there is that we're in quite uncertain future, an uncertain time. 2 years ago, we didn't even know COVID existed. Also, with Black Lives Matters, I think that really helped us focus internally and externally. Are we doing everything we need to do for our customers and for colleagues internally? As a housing provider, we have got responsibility because we receive grant to contribute to reducing the housing crisis. And also, we recognise that customer needs are changing, and particularly after COVID, they may be changing with furlough and universal credit, not staying as it is. So it paints a picture, if you like, of the external market in housing, and throughout probably lots of organisations to be quite an uncertain future. So that was why Shaping Our Future was formed, really, to help us mitigate, the after effects of COVID. And then we started Discovery last year. If you remember, there's 3 phases to Shaping Our Future. There's the discovery, where we find out those issues that we think we need to tackle. The design, where we plan to design to sort some of those issues out. And then delivery, how we deliver that change. So just refresh some of the findings from Discovery. I think from our perspective, it'd be useful to home in on customer experience. So from colleagues and customers' perspective, they felt some of our processes were difficult to follow. And therefore, sometimes, because they're difficult to follow, we can lose that emphasis on that right first time. And within that, there might be multiple touch points. I'm sure you see that from the work that you guys do. I know that we have some wasted time. And also there's been a strong feeling from Discovery that we don't know customers well. And the activity that's taking place from your perceptions already of all the customer calls that are taking place that recently started to try and get to know our customers better. From a culture perspective, internally, I mean by this, there was a feeling from colleagues that we don't always have a performance-focused culture. And also there's a feeling that some pockets of the organisation have had opportunities to grow and develop, but that's not been consistent across the board. And also a feeling from colleagues that we've got an inconsistent approach across equality, diversity and inclusion in some areas. If we look at insight, what Discovery felt there, and we could say, insight data, performance data, some of that we've had some issues on quality with it, whereas if you ran reports from QL or DRS, you might get different information out of it. And also, once we've got that information, it needs a lot of manual work to bring it together and to data cleanse it and to check it's accurate, which has led actually sometimes for us not having reliable data. And if we've not got that in reliable data and it's difficult to manually pull together, it sometimes feels we're on the back foot because we can't then use that data to help us make better decisions now and into the future. So I think it was recognised, you know, there's quite a bit of work that we need to do around that insight piece. On the technology front, you know, I've been to your service centre now, I've seen you working. I know how slow at the moment QL is. I see the multiple screens that you're using to try and track what the issue is. There's a feeling from the discovery phase that, you know, we've not fully utilising the core management housing system of QL, which has led in some occasions to us not meeting customer expectations, and it can make us a bit inefficient. Obviously, we are trying to solve some of that from an IT perspective with the migration of QL onto cloud. And obviously, hopefully, we'll see a reduction, will increase in speed once that migration's taken place, not just of the QL app, but your data as well. So I do recognise it's slow at the moment. So with that, if you like, the overall arching factors in the housing sector and our internal view of the world and how we'd like to improve, that has formed our shaping our future vision. And we've tried to pull it together to give us some focus. So our shaping our future is a way of us remaining resilient and fit for the future so we can continue to grow and thrive. And that's why I wanted to spend that second slide explaining that it is an uncertain future. So if we can remain resilient internally by looking at efficiencies and improvements, then that gives us more headroom. Our motivation, we feel, through shaping our future is the provision of innovative, inclusive and efficient services that are loved by customers and communities, but we also are proud of to deliver. And I know from speaking to some of you guys over the last couple of weeks, we're not always proud of our overall service at One Manchester that we deliver, okay? So we know we've got some areas that we need to improve in, okay? How we're going to do that, yeah? How we're going to improve what we're doing and provide that service that customers love. We think it's through a combination of issues. We've got to look at our processes, we've got to look at our performance, we've got to look at the way we buy things, our procurement, and we've got to look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. And all those things together, it's hoped we will then be fit for purpose in the future, yeah? And it's not one element is more important than the other. It's all those elements together. When we've done the roadshows, and we've been doing them since Monday, there's been a lot of feedback to ELT. Oh, we've talked about this before. Yeah, nothing's happened. We've talked about this 18 months ago. So what we've tried to do, therefore, is to put some measures against some of these so we can track our progress. So our outcomes and benefits, you can see there, brilliant customer service, more financial resilience, new ways of working, people to feel more engaged through growth culture, and maximise opportunities for our communities and customers. So let's look at some of those measures we're suggesting, how we are now and where we'd like to be through shaping our future. So if we look at the first one, brilliant customer service experience, you'll know this better than me. Yeah, you're more familiar with this than me. We ask people, don't we, would you recommend us to friends and family? And at the moment, 77% of our customers would. What we're aiming for through shaping our future is above 90%. Yeah, we'd love it to be 100, but we're being realistic as well. But, you know, above 90%. If we look at financial resilience, just want to explain this a bit in more detail. Net surplus is what other organisations might call profit if they were profit-making organisations. So net surplus to us, One Manchester, is all our income we get from all our rents minus all our costs. And at the moment, we're running at 20%. Now, through shaping our future, we aim to increase that to 25%. And that's really important when we think about the uncertain environment in housing at the moment. None of us would have predicted COVID 2 years ago. Yeah. So if we've got more headroom, that gives us more options to continue to be more than a landlord for our customers when things aren't going as easy or as we planned. And one example for that is if people have been in housing a bit longer. If you think about government spending, all the spending that we've had to do, that the government have had to do over the last 18 months that they couldn't have predicted, there's a lot of talk about how is the government going to pay for that more spending related to COVID? Well, we're not unfamiliar in housing with rent freezes or rent cuts. So, you know, one mechanism, we're not saying, you know, one mechanism may be that we have rent freezes or rent cuts in the future. And by increasing our net surplus now, that means we've got all more opportunities and choices if we faced by those issues. Our other outcome that and measures are how well we know our customers, how well we know our homes. Are we getting behind every door every year? That was very much the feel. We know patch sizes are big now, and obviously as a result of some of this, we may need to consider those patch sizes, and Anna might want to talk a little bit about that later. But at the moment, we don't measure how often we review the home or the tenancy per year. What we're suggesting through Shaping Our Future is we move to a baseline figure of we at least see every tenant every year to assess their tenancy. So we understand their needs, and therefore some customers might need more than one visit a year. And it'll help us to target the support to the customers that need it. From the growth culture perspective, the last year, you've had the happiness rating, and obviously we're looking to introduce something again from the autumn of this year. So at the moment, the rating there is 7.6%. We'd like to increase that to above 8.5 by the end of 3 years. We have been listening to colleagues, and I'll explain later some of the mechanisms we've got. We'd like to improve the way we listen to people through a further mechanism being introduced, and we'd like your views on that. But we also understand that there's an issue of pay and job evaluation in some areas. And obviously that was raised at the colleague conference in June, and we are looking at that this year. So that just gives one example of what we're trying to do on colleague experience and that culture and growth. Also, you know, our strap line is to be more than a landlord. If we want to continue to do that, which is obviously key to One Manchester, then if we've got that uncertain environment, we need to make sure we're creating those efficiencies internally so we can still fund our outward investment with communities, and we want to see that growing from 865,000 to over 1 million over the next 3 years. So with all that, if you like, background of the climate that we live in the housing sector, the outcome from discovery, some of the outcomes that we'd like to deliver for our customers and colleagues, we've set ourselves a 20% efficiency target through a review of process, performance, procurement and people. And we really do hope that this could deliver 5 million worth of savings to help us to support our customers coming out of the impact of COVID. Obviously, to continue that investment in communities, we've got 68 million going to be invested in Greymare Lane. And also, you may be aware of the government initiative to make sure we're all net zero carbon by 2050. Manchester have committed to doing that by 2038. We do know that from our current projections, that's going to cost us about £321 million to achieve that. We haven't got all that money in our business plan at the moment, and we are expecting some funding to become available, but we don't know when and how yet. So some of this savings also over the life of the business plan will contribute to paying for net zero carbon. Okay. So I've outlined here what we think is an overall journey plan for shaping our future. I'd just like to pick out the highlights for that. In 21-22, we feel it's important to look at our vision, values and behaviours. And for me, the shorthand here is, if we didn't have policies and procedures, what values and behaviours would we follow to make sure we're making the right decision for our customers? Also, we'd like to review and make sure our departments are fit for purpose. And also, as I've mentioned, we'd like to look at colleague experience so we can maximise that, because obviously we are a service industry and we recognise that the better we feel about working for One Manchester, then the better service we can deliver. And I think it's already fairly well known that we'd like to do a deep dive in repairs and maintenance in the Homes Directorate in the autumn. I think most people might be aware of that already, because obviously it's a complex part of the business and it needs a deep dive to understand the issues that we need to address there. The next year, we'd like to continue those surveys, reviews of the departments, and if you like, really understand our end-to-end digital customer experience. And we'd also like to see colleagues becoming more agile, particularly in the place, so they've got a better understanding and know our customers well. From the third year, I think we're hoping then it's when we can really offer that digitalisation of the end-to-end services for our customers. And also in our third year, it's about fully embedding all the organisational changes, the processes, the values and the behaviours, so they're all working together, obviously through effective leadership, etc. Just to remind you of the reviews that we've already undertaken to date under Shaping Our Future. So in February, we started consultation with the senior leadership team, as you know, and we reduced the heads of service from 15 to 7 senior leadership team. We've got most of those people now in post. We're just waiting for 2 more. And that'll be Matt, who's joining for the Director of Homes in early October, and Pauline, who'll be joining as Director of Cultural Comms from the end of September. We've also done a review in development, which I'm sure you've seen the adverts posted on Enigma and through emails to colleagues over the last month or so. And we're currently in consultation with 11 colleagues from around the business in insight and innovation. I don't think we have anybody from that consultation group here today. If there are, I would ask you to ask any specific questions about insight and innovation through those consultation meetings that are running over the next month or so. And we will feed back to everybody the results of that consultation once it's been completed. So we hope that you've felt involved in shaping our future to date, you know, through the various ways we've been communicating, but obviously it's guided the thinking already. You've had the colleague coalition that have done a great amount of work for the discovery element of shaping our future. But we also think now the time is right now to have an additional forum for colleagues to get involved. So what we'd propose here is we have a site consultative forum that we'll probably try and call Colleague Voice, or if anybody's got any other ideas, different names, that would be appreciated. We're thinking of about 6 to 7 meetings a year after board meeting, where we share the performance results of One Manchester as a whole with the groups, that we also look at strategy, and we talk about strategy with this group. Also, we discuss and share colleague experience. So pay and job evaluation would be discussed here, the outcomes from that review. What we're suggesting is we have 13 or 14 representatives from across One Manchester. For example, we'll probably have 3 from repairs. I think that's in the terms of reference. What I'd quite like is if we could issue that to everybody the end of this week, early next week, when we've completed the road shows, to get everybody to view and review that consultative forum, suggestions, feedback, any suggestions for changes. Once we've received that feedback, then we'd ask people for nominations to be involved. If we've got more nominations than positions, then we'll be running elections. So you've got a say in who will be representing you at that colleague forum. So, you know, please take the time to look at that terms of reference and see if it's something that you'd like to be involved in, or feedback your suggestions for inclusion in that terms of reference, please. Okay. So the next steps are after I've stopped talking, you'll be pleased to hear, I'd really like to give you the opportunity to ask any immediate questions you've got now, any comments, any feedback about shaping our future, identify priorities in your area. I know when I joined your meeting about a week and a half ago, you had lots of suggestions, but if you want to raise any of those again, please feel free. We're doing road shows all this week with colleagues, both virtually and face-to-face for people in repairs. And we'd ask you to continue that feedback to the end of August, early September. Also, please look at the terms of reference to the colleague voice that I mentioned. And then hopefully we'll have our first colleague forum late September, early October.